Hey, so here's a quick little guide on how to use Excel. You can use it for a couple different things. You can use it to calculate values for you, and it'll also make graphs for you. Okay, so this is using Excel or Microsoft Office or Excel 2010. If you're using anything prior to 2007, the menus and things like up here are going to look a little bit different, but the function's pretty much going to be the same. Okay, so the handout that you have, you can download a copy from the website also, but pretty much follow along with what I'm doing here. Okay, so first thing we want to do, label our values. So these will be our X values, and the rest of them are just going to be our Y values. So our next one, we're going to say Y is equal to X. Y is equal to X, and then squared. I'll just put the exponent there. Y is going to be equal to 1 over X. And also we're going to do Y equals 1 over X squared. Okay. Now, punch in a bunch of values. You can make random values. Let's say keep them between like 1 and 20 or so. So 3, 9, 14, 8. And try not to repeat the values. And let's go with that one. Okay, now to say these are going to be on our X values, and we want the values in this column to go on our Y axis when we make a graph for it. Okay, you can just go in and retype them in again, but that kind of defeats the purpose of what you're doing. Okay, so let's go up and delete these. Okay, couple things. First of all, also using this, you notice if you move in between, the cursor from the block changes into a line like that, and then if you click, you can drag and resize and make it smaller. Okay, and if you go right on the edge and you double click, it basically reduces it down to the size of the smallest values that you have there. Okay, now what can we do? Okay, we can say, instead of typing in the value 3, because the problem is if I change the value 3 here and I say, oops, you know, that one wasn't supposed to be 2, that was supposed to be 1. It didn't just change this value over here. Okay, so what we can do is, up in the function value up here, the formula bar, click equals, and say I want this block to equal this one always. Okay, then if you hit enter, it does that. Now if I change this value to 3, it changes that value there. Okay, now I can do the same thing here also. I can say it's equal to this cell value and do that. Okay, not too bad if you only got 10 of them, but what happens if you have like 50 or 100 values? Okay, another trick. Click on one of these things, move to the lower right hand corner, notice how the big block changes to a smaller plus. Click and hold and drag down, and it basically duplicates the function that you just had there. Okay, now I want y to be equal to this value squared. Okay, so how do I get that to be equal to? Well, you can say it's equal to this, and then click back in there, times is the star, the ampersand, or not the ampersand, the star sign. Okay, that again. Okay, it'll do that. Okay, but what if I was going to say this was x to the 5th power? Then I have to make it multiply by itself 5 times. Okay, well, what we can do is we click equals again and click the value that we want, but now in this thing over here, click on that arrow and pick the power sign. Okay, now the number that we want is going to be this value here. The power that we want is 2. Okay, now, little problem. It came out to be 12. Why? Look at the formula. Because I said equals A2. So I have to, if I want to do the power, I have to basically just do it straight after, right after I hit equals. So let's say equals, okay, power, the one that I want is A2, and the power is going to be 2. Okay, there we go. 3 squared should give me 9. Then I can bring it all the way down and I don't have to do that again. Okay. Now, how do I make this value the reciprocal of that one? Simple. Okay, this is just a simple, straightforward math function. Equals 1, you actually have to type 1, then the slash, which is divided by this number. Okay, equals, and that's it. Click back up here, go to the lower right hand corner, drag down again, and we got all those values. Okay, you can double check. 1 over 2 is 1/2. 1 over 4 is 0.25. Okay, now how do I do this? Y is equal to 1 over x squared. Okay, well, hit the equals again. 1 over, now I want x squared, so I don't click on that one yet. I do the power, then I say I want that value, and then the power will be squared. Then if I click OK, there it is. Drag it down again, and there you go. Okay. Now, how do I make a graph out of this? Okay, well, first thing you have to do when you make a graph, you have to make sure that these are in order. So, if I click on the A column, that pretty much selects everything there. Okay, but I don't want the X there. So, all I have to do is click on the 2, hold down the Shift key. Hold it down, don't let it go, hold it down, and then click on this cell right here. That highlights the whole thing. Okay. Now, I come over here on the right side, and I click the button that says Sort and Filter. Okay, and it asks me how do I want to filter it. Smallest to biggest, biggest to small. Smallest do to custom. Doesn't matter, you just want it sorted somehow. So let's go smallest to largest. Okay. And it says, oh, you need to expand the selection because you got other things associated with it. You want to expand the selection? Say yes. Okay, and basically it changed everything else also. Okay, next thing we need to do, make a graph out of this. Okay, so to make the graph, we want to click on the Insert tab on the top. Okay, and here's pretty much all the types of graphs that you want. Okay, so we're going to pick the scatter graph. When you click on it, it gives you a bunch of options. We want the scatter graph. It basically shows you the points, and we want the one without any lines on it. Okay, so basically, this one right here, scatter with only markers. Okay, choose that, and it makes the graph for you right there. Okay, now, problem is, it only graphed one set of values. Okay, so we need to tell it which values to graph. So we'll get rid of this. You can just click on it. Whoops, click someplace on it and hit delete on your keyboard and it goes away. Okay. Now I need to say what are my x values, what are my y values. I need these 2 columns. Okay. So to select the 2 columns, click on this first value, hold down the Shift key, click on this value here. Now they're all selected. Okay. So we go back to Insert, Scatter, click on it, and now they all line up in a straight line like this. Okay. Now next thing, I don't want this on the sheet with the data. I want it as a whole separate sheet, like on the bottom down here. So right click on it. Whoops. Right click on the side here. Okay, and when you right click, make sure you're not on any part of the graph here. Right click someplace that's not on the graph. Right click here, then say Move Chart. Okay, and I want it as a new sheet. Click OK. Okay, now here's a sheet all by itself without the data. Where'd the data go? It's down here on sheet number 1, down here. Okay, so click on Chart. Now, it's a nice straight line. Okay, so you can either just print this out and get a ruler, draw on the lines, that should be your best fit, and it's pretty much going to be a straight line. Or you can click on one of the points, right click, and say Add a trend line. Okay, and then it basically asks you what kind of line do you want it to be. Do you want it to be exponential, linear? We want this to be linear. Click. Okay. Then, and if you notice, if you move it to the side, if I click a different type of thing, it actually shows me. So you get to pick what you think is the best fit. Okay. So let's pick linear and say close, and there you go. Okay. Now, if you want to put labels on these things, okay, you actually have to do them manually. So Well, the program will do it for you if you want to. Okay. Or say insert and a text box. Okay. And then you'd have to draw it in and say y versus x. That's fine. Okay. And you can minimize it, you can move it to wherever you want to. And over here, again, you can go and add. Again, you have to go back to insert the text box. You can add a text box this way and say the y-axis. Okay, you can click down there, go back to insert again, another text box, and label it your x-axis. Okay, and when you're actually doing this, you'd be actually typing in the correct values of, or the correct types of things along with the units. Okay. Now, how do I make the other graph? Okay, I still need to put these on my x-axis, but I want this column to go on the y-axis. Okay, and it's not right next to each other. If I hold here and I hold down shift and I hold that, I select the ones in the middle, which I don't want. Okay, so how do you do it? Well, click on this column, hold down the shift, click on this column. Okay, now control lets you select individual boxes. So hold down the control key, the CTRL key, click here. Then let go, hold down the shift key, and do that. Now you've selected the values that you wanted. Okay. Then go to insert again, do our scatter graph, pick that graph, okay, and again right click not on the graph field. Let's move the chart to a new sheet. Okay, there we go. Click on one of the points, right click, add a trend line, and we don't want a straight line, do we want an exponential line? That doesn't fit. Logarithmic doesn't fit. Polynomial fits pretty good. Okay, so that's the one we'll pick. Okay, and then you can do the same things with the other graphs also. And don't forget, data's down here, so you can make graphs with the other two more graphs using y equals 1 over x and y equals 1 over x squared also.